According to the National Registry of Exonerations, 1 out of every 4 people wrongfully convicted of a crime was put behind bars because of false or misleading forensic evidence. Decades of pop culture portrayals and highly confident courtroom testimony have trained juries to believe in a flawless system. We're told that analysts can take a single hair, a bite mark, or a scratched bullet and match it to one specific suspect with absolute certainty. This 2016 report from the President's Council of Advisors on Science and Technology, alongside a 2009 National Research Council study, represents the first rigorous scientific audit of court methods. Researchers focused on feature comparison methods, where analysts compare crime scene evidence to a suspect. This tube of nuclear DNA represents the lone exception in their findings. The scientists concluded that, aside from biological DNA testing, virtually none of these widely used comparison methods have actually proven their foundational scientific validity. Curious, leaning in, if the nation's top scientists, the White House, and even the FBI acknowledge that these methods are severely flawed, why do judges keep letting them decide guilt or innocence? To understand the disconnect, we have to look inside the forensic laboratory. Many of these techniques operate as a black box. Instead of relying on objective, standardized measurements, the final conclusion often comes down to the subjective intuition of a human examiner. Take bloodstain pattern analysis. Experts testified in criminal trials for a full 50 years before anyone conducted a baseline reliability study on the practice in 2014. This bar chart breaks down the findings from a massive 2021 test on those analysts. It shows that experts looking at the exact same bloodstain contradicted each other 8% of the time, and they were entirely wrong about how the stain was made 11% of the time. This page from a 2015 Law Review article highlights an even larger failure in hair microscopy. An unprecedented review of the FBI's own laboratory found that their top examiners provided scientifically invalid testimony in over 95% of the cases reviewed. Bite mark analysis faces a biological barrier. Human skin is highly elastic. It is a terrible recording medium that inherently distorts impressions depending on the angle and movement of the body, reducing the analysis to highly educated guesswork. Because these disciplines rely so heavily on personal judgment, they fail the basic requirements of the scientific method. They cannot be objectively reproduced without the risk of human bias contaminating the results. This is the U.S. Supreme Court, the apex of a judicial system that has completely different rules for finding the truth than a laboratory. In science, truth is built on skepticism. Researchers run rigorous, double-blind tests, submit their findings to peer review, and if a theory fails, they discard it. The legal system operates in reverse. It relies on precedent. Courts look backward, using past case law and previous judicial decisions to justify the rulings they make today. Under our system, trial judges are designated as the gatekeepers of scientific evidence. But judges are trained as lawyers, not scientists. When a piece of forensics is challenged, they rarely evaluate it with scientific scrutiny. They simply look at what other judges have allowed in the past. This chart visualizes the precedent paradox. If a single court certified a dubious forensic method 50 years ago, that single flawed ruling multiplies into an impenetrable wall of case law. Future courts are bound by that history. The result is a legal framework actively designed to protect past investigative mistakes, entirely insulating them from modern empirical data. Despite an overwhelming consensus from the scientific community, this wall of bad case law remains standing. It is still being used to put innocent people in prison right now. This scale illustrates the AIM studies on firearms analysis, proving the supposed safeguards in these fields are broken. The research shows having a second analyst verify a bullet match is 5 times more likely to falsely incriminate a defendant than correctly exonerate them. This document from the PCAST report outlines what actual scientific validity in a courtroom requires: mandatory, rigorous proficiency testing for analysts, strictly objective standards, and clearly reporting the actual error rates to the jury. An expert's subjective opinion is not an empirical fact. Conflating the two has cost innocent people decades of their freedom and in some cases placed them on death row. The systemic mismatch between science and the law must end. Judges must be stripped of the ability to define scientific truth using outdated legal traditions. Until the legal system submits to the rigorous, objective rules of the scientific method, the courtroom will remain a place where fiction is legally binding.